I'm safe for them, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. The reason I'm asking that is because we're not having those discussions.
I don't know for sure, but I think religion is a really intense topic for you. You get a little intense.
Oh, okay.
He's intimidating. I don't think he realizes it, though. I don't know.
Hi, friends. It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Monday, December 16th, 2024. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Last night, Sister Wives, episode 14 of season 19. There was a lot that happened, but I am getting something off my chest here because there was a scene with Kody and Robyn, and obviously they're talking about going back to church. And Kody, who is always the guy that's like, everything at Robyn's house is perfect. All the kids love me. These are my kids. These are our kids. They're not Janelle's kids. They're not Robyn's kids. They're not Christine's kids. They're Robyn and my kids or my kids. The only kids he actually claims without denoting who they belong to. It's obvious here that there is something that has been not on camera. They have been completely not showing the discord that's happening in this house. And I think it's apparent that there's discord in this house because Dayton or David Dayton Brown isn't on the show anymore, and it's like he doesn't exist. And he lived in an RV on their driveway during this time. They now live in a different house, and I don't know if Dayton is living in the guest house at their new place. I don't know. But there was some uneasiness when it came to the daughters. And I noticed that Robyn got very nervous when she was asked a question by Kody about whether or not the girls viewed him as safe in order to talk about religion with, because the girls want to go to a church. And she kind of stuttered, which you saw in the very beginning of this video. And she said religion can be kind of a intense topic for you. Now, Kody wants to know if he's safe. She says yes, but then she stutters. And then when the girls are asked if they would actually talk to Kody, their response made me kind of feel like there's something going on here and this is being hidden.
He's intimidating. I don't think he realizes it, though. I don't know. I did talk to my dad about religion beforehand, just asking questions generally and stuff like that. Between my mom and my dad, they have different strengths in the way that they process things and communicate things. He's going to give like an unfiltered response, which I really appreciate about him. That if I had a guess.
Somebody brought it up with you so that I wouldn't go off on some lecture.
There's this thing about being around someone that's a narcissist. There's a few things. One, if you ask them a question about something, you don't really know what their response is going to be. If it's something that they think they know everything about, at least in my experience, having lived with one, if they know everything about it, it's going to be like a 40-minute conversation where you are told everything that you don't know and how they're awesome and how they know everything about it and how you need to listen to them and how everything should be about what they want and what they need and what's good for them. And it's probably not the direction that you wanted when you just had a simple question. Or if you ask them and it's not like the right moment or it somehow triggers them, it could be a fight and they could start yelling or they could use it to control you or they could use it to manipulate you. And because you don't necessarily know what is going to set off a narcissist and what's going to make them mad, in my experience growing up with one, you walk on eggshells a lot because you really don't know if they're going to pop off at you or if it's going to be a 30-minute conversation where they tell you everything they know and they're the best and they know everything about it and nobody knows it more than them. And either can be incredibly exhausting. And when Brianna said that he can be kind of intimidating and she kind of did that nervous laugh, it honestly reminded me of myself growing up as a kid when I didn't want to say anything bad about the person because I knew if I said something bad, they would take it the wrong way. They would take it personal because the a tiny bit of just criticism is like you are wounding their soul. There's no way to criticize a narcissist any effective way without them flipping out. And so you get nervous about what you say and you might laugh. At least that's what I used to do. And so I feel like there is this timidness, this fear on confronting Kody about anything. And you can put these girls on the show and make it look normal as much as you want, but every single time I see them on the show, they are devoid of emotion. They look extremely nervous. They look nervous like they're going to say the wrong thing. They look like they're reading a script or they're looking to each other to try to figure out, like, is this okay for me to say? Is that not okay for me to say? And it feels like they don't even really want to be there because they're not sure if there's going to be consequences for what they've said on the couch. And that's not a safe place. But most importantly, a parent who claims to be loving and have these great relationships with these kids shouldn't have to ask if he's a safe person for their children. I don't know about you, but if you have a loving relationship with your child, you should always be safe for them. You should always be able to listen to them without judgment, without them feeling fear or trepidation. And even to have to broach that question to your quote unquote love of your life wife, it's deeply disturbing to me because Kody would always say that he was safe in the house that he was in with Robyn and no one outside was safe. And now it's like, well, am I safe to them? And she says yes, but it felt like the answer was no. So really, I feel like no one is safe with Kody.
They might find a community that gives them a social outlet, people to actually associate with, even date. All I am is a knight with a sword. I mean, like, I'm here to protect you. But because I played king with some of my other daughters, I got put aside. My closed-mindedness caused me a lot of heartache.
What Kody says on the couch versus what I think is happening in the real world are two different scenarios. I think when Cody's on the couch, his like megalomaniac and like egocentrism and this egotistical side of him comes out where he is the most grandiose, amazing person and capable of all being benevolent and all good. Yeah. And you know, she says, Robyn says to him, that she believes that the way that he would go to church with them would actually be a turnoff or would be unhelpful for them because he would go being egotistical and being arrogant and believing he knows better than everyone because he would be pointing out what he didn't agree with, what he knew better, what the pastor didn't know and what he knows and what the pastor is getting wrong because he knows the scripture better than anyone because Kody's faith taught him that he had the authority, the priesthood authority. He was the guiding king of his family. And he would also tell everyone he knows it because he knows everything. He's a know-it-all. He's all ego, baby. And what bothered me about what he said there was he says, I lost a lot of the daughters because I played the king with them. And now I'm going to try to do it differently. And so he's basically saying that he was a tyrannical king, that it's my way or the highway. You do what I want or else. You go where I go. You believe what I believe. You are whatever I am. When you're the king, there's no reason to compromise. There's no reason to consider the feelings of others, the desires of others. You really just believe you're better than everyone else. So I think he makes these types of comments where you think, oh, Kody, he really is having a self reflecting moment. But I feel like, no, this is just a way for Kody to try to paint over the mess that he's made, pretend like he's a good dad so he can restore his good dad image. So he has this like all this damage that's off to the side of all of these daughters that are heartbroken and left destroyed because of what he's done to their mothers, destroyed because what they went through as children, destroyed because of his anger and his lack of accountability. And he just says, I'm going to ignore that and I'm just going to focus over here and I'm going to be the best dad ever over here. But even with the girls that he has that he's trying to be the best dad over here with, that he's not safe to them because Kody's the kind of guy that says all the right things but doesn't follow through. And I honestly think that Robyn has a softer approach with talking to him, right? And he's more amiable to what she says, more agreeable to what she says. But I still don't get the sense that he's actually doing what she wants, because if he did, she wouldn't be scared to have to ask him about doing something on her own with her daughters. They're her kids. She's a freaking 46-year-old woman. Why does she need his permission, right?
Well, I wanted to make sure that you're cool with, I want to go to church.
Yeah.
I just need it. I mean, we don't have our church nearby, but I don't think that that's even something you would ever. So
For me, that's not a safe place. Most religion says you got to stick to this doctrine.
The fact that Robyn has to ask Kody if he's okay with her going to church. I understand that a conversation around faith and church is a big discussion. But if someone wants to go to church, she shouldn't have to ask permission for her to go. And she shouldn't have fear asking him about if he's okay with her going. It's clear to me that she is not comfortable bringing up topics with him and has to be very delicate with him and stroke his ego when she talks to him so that he doesn't flip out at her about the idea of her going to church. And Kody goes on this strange diatribe about how the church that he was at was basically saying that he was an apostate, a heretic, and they were not happy with him because his hair was long and they wanted him to cut his hair. And the fact that they had this belief that he had to be clean cut and not have long hair and have his body a certain type of way, he didn't like, which is interesting, given that for years, Kody was okay with the women having to dress modestly, maybe dress in clothing that they weren't necessarily comfortable in because they had to cover their long garments and they had to refrain from their personhood. But when they were going through that was fine. But Kody draws the line at his hair. And Kody truly seems to be one of these fundamentalists that's left the faith or the building of the church. But now he is of his own belief system. And when you're in that place, I remember Kristen Decker, who was part of the Apostolic United Brethren, she was telling me that men that are on the outside and once they leave the church and there's no one or anyone sort of dictating what their beliefs are, it becomes this free-for-all. And families can get the guys get super controlling because they get these godlike complexes because they're like, I'm not going to abide by the authority of the church, but I am going to have authority over my family through my faith. And so they're constantly changing the rules, the structure, what things are the patterns and the routines of the family. And it becomes this whatever they believe today versus sticking to a consistent belief system. And when you don't have any ecclesiastical authority or any elders or anyone around you to kind of hold you accountable, it gets pretty dangerous, especially if what you just saw happening in the family happens, where Kody made the decision that he was the God. He was the one that made the decisions. He was the one that made the rules. He was the one that had authority. He was the one that was the priest head, the head of the household. And no one was ever going to tell him otherwise. And quite honestly, I don't see him changing that with Robyn at all. Because if Robyn and Kody had a healthy relationship, she wouldn't have to have conversations like this with him where he would feel uncomfortable. And Kody doesn't even want to go to church. Kody doesn't want to have to listen to anyone tell him what to do. He keeps saying that he's lost his faith, but I don't believe he's actually lost his faith because he still wants the kids to be in the LDS church. I think he's just lost his, I don't want to have anyone in control over me. And I'm the one in control. I'm the God. And if you have to live with someone that's like that, that's tyrannical. And for him to think that he's changing with the women, with the girls he has now and the kids he has with Robyn, it's just a do-over. Their faces earlier didn't show me that they actually are on his side. They look terrified of this man. And then Kody only wants to go to church with her, not because he wants to actually go to church, but he wants to stop men from hitting on her.
If you were interested in that or not.
Well, you don't want to go too long without me because I don't want some guy thinking you're a single mom. There's a lot of men interested in Robyn, and they were sort of trying to get around me and to her. I don't want some guy doing that, looking at you and going, holding your gaze. Like, yeah, I'm not guarding now. I am protecting the pride.
I have to say I'm married.
When I saw that clip last week, and I did a video about it, I said that Kody's possessiveness and controlling behavior is evident with Robyn. And I didn't know the full context of the conversation. Now knowing that he doesn't want to really go to church at all, that he believes that the way that he believes is the right way, that the only reason he would go to church is basically to like keep his eye on her and the girls because he is so insecure that another man looking at her would make her leave. I don't know if it's the competitiveness of polygamy where all the men are competing and the wives for the women and there's only so many women there and men will take other men's wives even though they say they don't do that in the AUB. It seems something that he has a paranoid delusion of. But if you're that insecure in your relationship with Robyn and you think that going to a church with her going to a church would somehow cause a man to look at her and get her gaze, that would be all she would need to leave you. Is your relationship really built on the solid ground that you think it is? If it would only take a man to simply look at a woman and she's just weak in the knees and she's moving on, or is it because you got her that way and you know what she's after? Or is it that this entire thing that your marriage is perfect and she's the love of your life, just you showboating and trying to make it seem like you're so much happier now that everyone's gone, that she is the one that you want, that you got what you wanted, and that's a lie. I mean, I understand that he preferred her and she was his favorite, but a part of me just thinks like, I feel like because he doesn't have the competition of the women competing for him and he doesn't have that conflict, now it's like needs to become a different conflict of all the men are after Robyn. I would like to know the names and the addresses of each one of these men because I've never seen a single man ever hit on her. Like, when does this happen, Kody? Literally ever. I mean, I'm sure because they're public figures, they must have fans that think they're attractive. And I'm assuming that there are people out there that think that Robyn is pretty. So maybe, but don't you think it's more threatening to you to have your wife on a show where she's like on a television across the country every Sunday night, and a man could look at her and be like, "I want that lady." That seems a lot more risky to me than going to a church, but I don't know. But Kody is I was just left pretty concerned here. The girls look terrified of him. They seem very uncomfortable. He's clearly unsafe as a human being. He's controlling of Robyn. And this whole dynamic is toxic. We're going to get into another video later where we'll talk about some of the things that Mary talked about her friends with about Robyn and Kody and kind of what went wrong in that relationship. Make sure before you go out that if you haven't hit the like button, the like thumbs up, and then make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. And also leave some comments. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, everyone.